the nitty-gritty, shall we? Hello, you guys. Welcome back to my channel. I am so happy that you're here. If you are here, you are... Am I in focus? If you are here, you are more than likely about to be, just became, or maybe you have been for quite some time, a military spouse. And that just makes me so happy. Today, I am going to talk about things that I wish I knew before becoming a military spouse. I've talked a little bit about being a military spouse on my channel before, and I have done like, I think a Q&A or an advice segment. Now that I've been a military spouse for quite some time, I think I have a little more knowledge. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. I have my notes on my phone. I'm going to say these are in no order. So some of these are definitely more important, and I will just try to point that out when I can. The first thing I wrote down was that I think you need to always be prepared to be flexible. Things in the military can change super quick, and we've definitely learned that, whether it be a PCS or a deployment or a training or something as crazy as your paycheck being messed up. Things are super unpredictable in the military. Things can really change on a dime, so you have to kind of always be able to pivot. What does friends say? Just channel that in your experience. Kind of tying onto that, obviously being comfortable with moving is key. You kind of need to be comfortable moving wherever the military wants to take you. We're only on our second PCS location, and that second location is Alaska. And it's not overseas, but it is technically an Oconus location. So that is something I probably wasn't expecting so soon into my husband's time in the service. You could go a lot farther, or you could get lucky and be really close to home if that's something you're wanting. It's kind of a no-brainer, but I do always like to throw it out there, especially when I'm talking to new spouses, because that's probably something they are most afraid of. And that's okay. I was too. If when you're moving, you decide to live on base, you definitely need to be prepared for that journey. Depending on the company that owns your housing, could be problems. You're probably going to hear a lot of horror stories about that. Probably not going to get the nicest home. There's probably going to be problems. In my experience, maintenance has always been really, really helpful, so that's amazing. But honestly, outside of the house itself, because that is just so hard to predict, I would be prepared to never be in silence living on base. At our last location, there were constantly planes in the sky, and those jets can be super loud. Here at JBear, it's still pretty loud, but there's so many different types of aircraft flying since it's a joint base, and I just feel like they have different missions here. In our last base, it was always like F-22s, and those jets, they're just so loud. I could like never make any videos back then because every time I tried, there was a jet going off. So be prepared for that. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, since we've gone through a couple basics that you probably already know or can at least guess. The next one is people might not come and visit you like they say they will. And that's something I think you should probably already accept, because when it happens, it might help lessen that feeling just a little bit. But let's be honest, like that just sucks all the way around. And kind of tying onto that, you have to make your own village, because you don't have the people you're used to having at home more than likely, unless you get lucky and you're able to be close, or you really do just have an amazing group of family and friends who will come and visit you no matter how far. And I will say I'm like partially lucky in that way, but also reality kind of sets in, and it's just impossible for people to come and visit you as much as we'd all like them to. It sucks. It's really hard. You want to look forward to things like that, but they just might not always be able to happen. So you kind of have to be okay being on your own. Being on your own kind of ties into my next point. I think that as a spouse, you gain so much independence. That didn't really set in as much for me when my husband went to like BMT and tech school. That hit more for me when my husband was deployed, because he was gone for half the year. He missed like my birthday. Luckily, he didn't miss those major end of the year holidays. It was really tough, but I learned so much about myself that I never thought I would. And since we got married young and moved out of high school young together, I never lived on my own before that. So I just learned so much about who I was as a person and who I wanted to be, and who I wanted to be as a wife for when my husband returned from his deployment. So even though it was a really difficult situation, as it always is, that will never stop, I do think that you can grow so much from those painful, hard moments. So that's something I think you could look forward to, even though it's a little scary. Next one. and these are all kind of the same topic. You need to leave your FOMO at home because you will probably miss out on milestones and people will probably miss out on your milestones, and that is okay. I know I had like my friends and family on FaceTime for me when I graduated college. I graduated online, so it was a little bit different, but there's a lot. I mean, I'm missing like the birth of my best friend's baby, and there is like nothing more painful than that when you watch your friends just grow their lives and you don't get to be there for that. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't be there for them if you could. It's just tough. Those are things that you never really get used to, but I did want to bring some awareness to it. Next, it might and might not be hard to make friends. I know these are all seeming a little bit negative, but I promise not all of these are bad. You just have to put yourself out there. There's so many resources to reach out to spouses in your local community. Not every base has that, but I will say a lot of them do, and I have found them so helpful. So I do think you have to put yourself out there and get out of your comfort zone a little bit to make friends, which can make it difficult, but you can absolutely do it. I've been lucky enough to make some really, really great friends so far. Next one I wrote kind of ties on to that. There can be a lot of support in your community, so utilize those Facebook groups. And getting into our last ones here, money can be tight. So if you are able, be prepared to build up a savings. If you're not able to do that, I don't think it's the end of the world, but I do think we learned a lot, especially moving to Alaska, that a lot of things can come out of pocket, especially your first move with the military, because you don't have that government travel card like you will later in the future. Be prepared just in case, God forbid, that travel card does not come through or you're in your first move. Try to have a little bit of money saved up so you don't have to feel so much pain and pressure. It will get reimbursed, but the military is not known for being fast at that process. One you already probably know if you are dating or marrying someone in the military, there's a lot of stigmas around it. I get a lot of hate all the time for being with somebody in the military, people assuming that they're going to cheat on me. I don't know how anyone is so bold that they could look, I was gonna say look someone in the face, but they're hardly ever doing it to your face, okay? Online, they're gonna hide behind their keyboard and type that your husband is gonna be just like the stigma and probably cheat on you or abuse you, etc. Can I even say abuse on here? I don't know, okay? If these people are allowed to comment it, I feel like I should be allowed to say it, but it's fine. Just learn to brush that off your back. It happens more than I would like to admit. I'd love to get rid of that, but that's just impossible. And I'll say this, if your husband's gonna cheat on you or be a horrible husband to you, you probably already know it, and it probably has nothing to do with the fact that he's in the military. You can tell I love that one. Next, I will say something I wish I knew was that there are so many good resources for military spouses. And this can come as a surprise, and it doesn't really matter when you learn this stuff. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Those good resources can be like school opportunities, job opportunities, mental health resources, etc. If you can, research them and use them. Use them to your advantage. Who cares what anyone has to say about it? And use that military discount. It's 5-10%. Who cares? Who is judging people for using military discount? Like, baby, I'm gonna get everything I can. Like this month, Lululemon is offering 25% off to people who are military affiliated. I'll be using that, thank you. That's not really the original resource I was trying to reference, but that discount is a good one. The last one I'll say is that I think it's really important to create your own identity and independence. Some of this will kind of fall naturally, like I said, if you do have to go through those hard separation periods, like a deployment or a training or whatnot. I do think it's important to create your own identity. And when I say that, I feel like a lot of people can also kind of create a stigma against military spouses, like claiming that they're a military spouse, which I do find weird. I know there are weirdos in the community that take it a little too far and wear their husband's rank. If you've not heard that term before, you'll hear it a lot. There's a lot of spouses out there, unfortunately, that kind of use their husband's service to their advantage and act like they did it too, which don't get me wrong, there's sacrifices you make, but at the end of the day, I am not the one in the military. However, I am very proud of my husband, and my whole world literally revolves around him and his career. But outside of that, there's so many things I do. Like, I still work to build my own career. I graduated with my bachelor's in marketing. I'm always working, and I'm always putting into hobbies that fulfill me. And on top of that, I'm not afraid to wear the title of a military spouse, because at the end of the day, that is what I am, and that is what a lot of my life experiences are going to be built from. So I think there's a good balance you can have there, but I do think it's important to also remember who you were before that and who you want to be after that, because your husband might not be in forever, and at the end of the day, you are still a wonderful human being who deserves to be recognized as you, the individual. And I think that just takes some learning. And that's okay. It's almost been 5 years since my husband joined, which is crazy. We've been doing this for this long, but also that is only a small portion of what we will do. I feel like there's so much more that I will learn, but if I can give any piece of advice, this is where I'm at right now. What I love about this is I get to share what I've learned, and people can also share with me what they've learned. And I think that we can all utilize each other, lean on each other, and make the best of this. If there's any other questions that you have about this military spouse or military lifestyle, please let me know in the comments below, because I would love to dive deeper into these topics. I feel like I always say I'm going to, and then I forget. I get busy working my 9 to 5, making the big girl bucks, and I don't have time for it. And don't forget, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so we can be besties and we can go through this journey together. If you felt like this was helpful in any way, I would also love to know that too, because that is the #1 thing that is most important to me. I am so happy you're here. If you're a new military spouse, good luck. You've got this. It is not as scary as you think, and that's all she wrote. I think that's all I've got for today. Love you so much. Thanks for watching.